When we first boarded the ship, I told myself this was it, the restart we both needed. The air smelled like sunscreen and salt, and the sun bounced off the waves like everything was possible again. Tessa looked radiant in her oversized sunglasses and that white sun hat she always wore on vacation. She leaned into me for a selfie, her smile bright, effortless. I smiled too. For the camera, for the people around us, maybe even for myself. I wanted to believe it wasn't too late. 8 years together, 5 married, and somewhere in year 3, something had begun to fade. Not in a dramatic, movie-worthy way, just in slow, dull inches. We still said, "I love you," but it felt like brushing your teeth, something you do out of habit. We still went on dates, held hands in public, but in private, she turned away from me when she slept. We didn't fight. That might have been better. We just coexisted. So when she surprised me with cruise tickets last Christmas, wrapped in gold ribbon, I took it as a sign she wanted to fix us. 10 days in the Caribbean, she had said, slipping them into my hands like a promise. Just you and me. Now, I sat alone by the pool, my drink already half melted, watching strangers laugh and flirt and swim. She was somewhere else. Said she was going to the spa this morning, maybe yoga after. I offered to join her, tried to anyway, but she smiled and said, "You hate massages, Dean, and I don't need a chaperone." It was meant to be a joke, but it didn't feel like one. I texted her an hour ago. "Hope you're having fun. I'm near the pool if you want to meet up." No answer. It wasn't like I hadn't noticed the little things. The way she kept checking her phone with this soft, secretive smile. How she lingered getting ready at night. How she wore perfume just to go to the upper deck and read. I told myself not to spiral. This trip was supposed to help us heal, not feed my paranoia. That evening, as I was buttoning my shirt, she walked into the cabin with damp hair and glowing skin. She looked incredible, all soft curves and that effortless beauty that used to knock the air out of my lungs. She didn't even glance at me. "Dinner's at 7, right?" she asked, already rummaging through her purse. "Yeah." "How was the spa?" She kept her back to me. "Amazing. I actually fell asleep during the massage. No mention of yoga, no detail. Just another vague, breezy sentence tossed over her shoulder. At dinner, everything felt like a performance. The lighting was warm, and she was dressed like she wanted to be seen. She told me some story about a loud woman in the spa, and I laughed when I was supposed to. We ordered wine, made small talk, smiled for the waiter. On the outside, we probably looked like the perfect couple, relaxed, in love, glowing from sun and ocean air. But every time I tried to shift the conversation toward something real, toward us, she'd pivot, talked about the food, the view, the new sandals she saw in the gift shop. Then she excused herself to go to the bathroom, took her phone with her. Again. I watched her walk away, the sway in her hips, the way her fingers clutched her purse like she was afraid to drop something. That was the moment it hit me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I knew her, and something was very, very wrong. I woke up alone. The cabin was silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. Tessa's side of the bed was empty, barely disturbed. Her robe was gone from the hook on the bathroom door. No note, no, be right back. Not even a damn emoji. I checked my phone. No message. I lay there for a few minutes, just listening. Not thinking, just existing. There was a strange heaviness in my chest, like a storm was trying to form, but couldn't find the clouds yet. Eventually, I dragged myself out of bed, showered, dressed, and wandered up to the top deck. I wasn't even sure where I was going, maybe just trying to outrun the silence. The sun was out in full force. Tourists were already drinking margaritas and dancing by the pool like it was noon in Vegas. Music thumped through hidden speakers. Flip-flops slapped on hot wood planks. Somewhere a whistle blew, probably for water volleyball or some other distraction. I ordered a black coffee, no sugar, and sat alone at one of the small side tables near the railing. From here, you could see nothing but endless blue, The kind of view that's supposed to make you feel free. I felt trapped. Halfway through the cup, I heard footsteps behind me, then a voice, cheerful, fast, young. "Hey man, sorry to interrupt." I turned and saw one of the cruise staff, early 20s, name tag shining, Elias, guest activities. He looked like he had never frowned in his life. Polished teeth, polo shirt, clipboard in hand. "I just wanted to say, your wife was the star of the show yesterday," he said, laughing a little. Seriously, she lit up the whole snorkeling group. Rico couldn't stop laughing. He said she had everyone cracking up on the boat ride back. I froze. "Snorkeling?" I asked, like I had misheard. "Yeah, off St. Thomas. The afternoon group?" He looked at me, puzzled, maybe thinking I was hungover. "She wore that light blue sarong thing, dark hair, killer laugh. Pretty sure she was sitting up front with Rico the whole time. Man, they had this bit going. I swear they could do stand-up together." He smiled wide again. "Anyway, just thought I'd say, good vibes, man. Y'all make a fun couple." He gave me a thumbs up like we were teammates after a game, then walked off toward the pool crowd, already scanning for his next social target. I didn't respond. I just sat there, staring out at the ocean, trying to hear myself think through the sound of blood rushing in my ears. She went snorkeling. With him. While I sat by the pool like an idiot, thinking she was in a spa room, getting lavender oil rubbed into her back. She didn't just lie. She made me believe I was crazy for even thinking something felt off. And now, this smiling kid with a clipboard had just handed me the proof, casually, like it was a compliment. "Your wife was the star." The phrase echoed in my skull. I didn't know whether to laugh or put my fist through the table. She wasn't even trying to hide it well. Same boat, same ship, same goddamn floating prison. She was brazen enough to flirt in daylight, in front of guests and staff, thinking I'd never notice, that I was too slow, too trusting. That I'd keep playing the part of the loyal husband while she played the lead in her own little vacation romance. I stood up, slowly. The chair scraped back and someone glanced over, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to scream. Not yet. I wasn't going to follow her and make a scene. No. If she wanted to perform, she was going to get a stage. Dinner that night was her idea. She came back to the cabin humming, cheeks flushed from the wind, eyes bright like she'd just stepped off a yacht photo shoot. She moved lightly, without a hint of guilt, and pulled out a green dress I hadn't seen in years. The one with the open back and the soft neckline that used to drive me crazy. She didn't ask if I liked it. She just spun in the mirror once, said, "Feels like a special occasion kind of night," then looked at me over her shoulder with that half smile that used to mean something. I told her she looked great. My voice was flat. She didn't seem to notice. We walked side by side through the quiet corridors toward the main dining lounge. She talked almost the entire time, about how the ship looked prettier at night, how the lights shimmered on the water, how maybe we should book the sunset sail tomorrow. I let her talk. My responses were minimal. She didn't seem to mind. Maybe she was just filling silence, or maybe she really thought things were fine. But I wasn't walking next to her anymore. I was watching her. We were seated at a window table, one of those romantic setups with a flickering candle and two chairs just slightly too close together. Soft jazz played in the background. The lighting was warm and low, flattering, intimate, calculated. Tessa leaned back in her seat, crossing her legs in that polished, practiced way. She scanned the room subtly, smiling to herself like someone who owned the space. The waitress came by. Tessa ordered red wine before I said a word. Then she handed me the menu like it was a shared ritual we hadn't done in months. That's when I leaned forward slightly. "Funny thing happened earlier today." She looked up, fork resting on her bread plate. "Oh yeah? I was up on the top deck. Guy from the activities crew came up to me. Young guy. Elias, I think his name was." I watched her closely. The change in her posture was tiny, barely perceptible. A slight shift in her shoulders, a flicker in her eyes. "He said you were the star of the snorkeling group yesterday." There was a beat of silence. Then she laughed, too quickly, too loud for the table. Oh, yeah, that was just a quick thing. Totally forgot. You forgot snorkeling? No, I mean, she waved a hand, brushing it off. It was last minute. I passed by the excursion booth on my way to the spa and they said someone dropped out of the group. It was just a quick stop-in. Barely even got in the water. Said Rico couldn't stop laughing at your jokes. Said you two made quite the pair. For a moment her mask slipped. Just a flicker. The corners of her mouth tightening, eyes flicking to mine, calculating. Then she smiled, too brightly. Oh, that was it was a silly group thing. He was just being nice. Her wine glass trembled slightly as she lifted it. I didn't respond. I just let the quiet settle again. Let her fill it. I honestly didn't think it was worth mentioning, she said, voice light but eyes darting. You were relaxing by the pool and I figured, why interrupt that? I leaned back, folded my napkin in my lap. You're right, I said. Not a big deal. That seemed to soothe her a little. She nodded, smiled again, tried to move on, asked if I thought the scallops would be better than the steak. But I wasn't listening anymore. I wasn't answering out of instinct, the way I used to. I was studying her, watching every blink, every sip, every deflection. She thought she'd covered it, that her quick laugh and offhand explanation were enough, that her performance could still work if she smiled wide and didn't break character. But the mask had slipped. And once you see the crack, you can't unsee it. I played along, ate the salad, talked about the wine, told her the jazz singer had a good voice. But under the table, my hand was clenched on my napkin like it might tear. Because from that moment on, every move she made was evidence, every look over her shoulder, every reach for her phone that she tilted just slightly out of view, every time she smiled at something in her screen for a second too long. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wasn't done watching. If she wanted to lie to me, she'd have to lie well, because now I was taking notes. That night after dinner, she thought I was sleeping. That's the funny part. The confidence, the sheer nerve of it. As if years together hadn't taught me the rhythm of her breathing when she's genuinely asleep versus when she's lying there pretending. As if I wouldn't notice the difference between restlessness and intention. I was lying on my side, facing the wall, pretending to breathe slowly. The sheets barely moved when she slid out from under them. No creak in the floorboards. Just the whisper of her dress being lifted from the chair. Then the soft sound of the zipper. I kept my eyes closed. Let her think she was winning. Let her believe I still trusted her enough not to follow. 5 minutes later, the cabin door clicked shut behind her. I waited 60 seconds. Then I sat up, slow and silent, heart pounding in a tight, cold rhythm. I slipped on jeans, a black t-shirt, and my shoes. I stepped into the hallway and scanned the empty corridor. The ship was quieter now. Most people were either in their rooms or still drinking at the late-night bars. The carpeted floor muffled every step. I moved quickly, but not too quickly. I knew where she'd go. It wouldn't be somewhere obvious, like the main deck or a bar. She'd want privacy, a tucked-away place where people wouldn't stumble across her mid-act. There was a glass-walled observation lounge at the back of the ship, dim lighting, almost always empty after midnight. Couples went there to talk. I remembered the spot because she had mentioned it the first night. "It's romantic," she'd said. "All that open water behind you." It took me less than 4 minutes to get there. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open just enough to see inside. And there she was. Tessa stood near the edge of the wide panoramic window, the sea glowing faintly under moonlight behind her. One hand in her hair, the other holding a wine glass she clearly didn't order alone. And Rico, leaning against the railing, a little too close. One hand casually brushing her lower back as he laughed. That kind of easy, practiced laugh men like him specialize in. The laugh you use to charm tourists and convince married women that what they're doing isn't so bad. She laughed too, tilted her head toward him. Then, just like that, She leaned in. Not a kiss. Not yet. But close enough to feel the heat of it. I saw her smile in that way. That soft, private, intimate way. The smile that used to be mine. I didn't think. I walked straight into the lounge, and my voice came out louder than I expected. Sharp, clear, and cutting through the room like a blade. Well, well, isn't this cozy? They both jerked around. Tessa froze mid-laugh, face draining of color. Rico straightened like a kid caught with his hand in the till. "Dean," she stammered. This isn't what it looks like." "Really?" I laughed, loud, ugly. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you snuck out of our bed to rub sunscreen all over some cruise clown at midnight." "Lower your voice." "Why? You didn't seem too quiet when you were giggling over cocktails and playing footsie yesterday." Her lips parted, but nothing came out. "I trusted you," I said, stepping closer. "I gave you space. I gave you the benefit of the doubt. I thought maybe I was the problem, that maybe we just needed time." I turned to Rico. "And you? What are you? A walking cliché? Do you just scan the passenger list for wedding rings and low self-esteem?" Rico raised his hands. "Look, man, I didn't know she was—" "Oh, shut the hell up," I snapped. "You knew. You just didn't care." People were staring now. A couple on a love seat in the corner slowly backed out of the room. Someone near the door had their phone out. Tessa reached toward me. "Dean, please, can we just—" I pulled away like her touch burned. "No. No more fairy tales about massages and 5-minute swims. You've been putting on quite a show, Tessa, so go ahead. Take a bow." And with that, I turned around and walked out. My hands were shaking, my chest was tight, but I didn't look back, because for the first time in months, maybe years, I wasn't the one hiding. She was already in the cabin when I came back, sitting on the edge of the bed, barefoot, elbows on her knees, like a teenager waiting for punishment. Her green dress was gone, replaced by a loose t-shirt and shorts. No makeup. Her hair was messy from the wind. For the first time in a long time, she looked small. "Dean," she said softly, eyes already red. "Please." I closed the door behind me and didn't answer. Just walked past her, picked up my suitcase from under the bed, and placed it on top. She stood. Please don't do that. Can we just talk? You weren't supposed to see that." I looked at her, finally. "But I did." She flinched. "I wasn't thinking clearly," she rushed on. "It wasn't, God, I don't even know what it was. I felt lost. We've been distant, and I thought maybe you didn't want me anymore. And then he—" "Stop." She froze. I zipped open the suitcase and started folding clothes, slowly, methodically. My hands weren't shaking this time. I felt strangely calm, like someone who had been drowning for a long time and finally found the surface. "I'm getting off in San Juan," I said without looking at her. "Next port." "What?" Her voice cracked. "Dean, no, please. We're supposed to— I'll book a flight back home from there. Don't worry. I'll leave the key card at reception. You can enjoy the rest of your little romance cruise without interruptions." She stepped closer. "You're just going to leave? After everything?" I looked up at her, and for a moment, I didn't even recognize the face in front of me. "You already left, Tessa. You just didn't bother packing." She covered her mouth with one hand. "I was going to tell you," she whispered. "I was going to stop it." I stared at her. "No, you weren't." Her shoulders collapsed. She sat down again, as if the weight of it all finally hit. I finished packing and stood in silence for a moment. The hum of the engine beneath us. The faint echo of some game show coming from another cabin. The world kept moving. "I meant the vows," I said quietly. "Every word of them. I meant every day after, even when it was hard. Even when it was silent between us." Tessa looked up, tears rolling now. "Dean." "But you threw that away," I continued. "For what? A tan and a smile and a couple of compliments?" She reached out a hand, but I stepped back. "I'll be gone before breakfast. Don't follow me." Then I turned, opened the cabin door, and left. I didn't slam it. I didn't say goodbye. Some things don't deserve an ending. I stepped off the ship just after sunrise. No dramatic farewell, no bags being thrown, just me, a small suitcase, and the kind of silence that doesn't ask for permission. The port in San Juan was already buzzing. Taxis pulling in, tourists posing for selfies, loud voices trying to sell last-minute excursions. But it all felt far away, like I was underwater, hearing it through glass. I walked straight past the signs pointing to cruise excursions and welcome center. Didn't even look back at the ship. She was still on board. I didn't care. I hailed a cab, gave the driver the name of the airport, and sank into the back seat. The driver didn't speak, just nodded, turned up the fan, and drove. The city passed by in flashes. Narrow streets, open cafes with chairs still stacked. Everything around me looked like a place built for new memories. I was leaving mine behind. The airport was small, quiet. I bought a one-way ticket home, paid cash, declined the seat upgrade. No one asked questions. On the plane, I took the window seat. 23A. My row was empty. I was grateful for the space. I didn't want small talk or seatmates or anything that required energy, just altitude. As we took off, I looked out the window. The ocean faded below. The coastline disappeared behind the clouds. The ship was somewhere out there, shrinking into nothing, along with everything I thought I was saving. I wasn't sure if that meant I was strong or just completely hollowed out. When we leveled off, I took out my phone. Not to check her texts. I'd seen enough previews of the apologies, the rationalizations, the please let me explain. No. I opened my email, created a new message. Subject, retainer inquiry, divorce attorney. I wrote it simply. No emotion, no need to vent, just clarity. My name, my situation, a request to schedule a consultation as soon as possible. I hovered over the send button for a second, then pressed it. Done. The cabin was quiet. The air up here was thin and clean. For the first time in what felt like years, I could finally breathe. Maybe I wasn't healed yet, but I wasn't stuck anymore. She came back 10 days later. The cruise had ended. I knew the date. I didn't reach out. Didn't ask when she'd be flying in. Didn't care. I imagined she hoped I'd still be gone. Maybe off somewhere licking my wounds, giving her space to rewrite the narrative in her head. But I was home, and by then I was no longer wounded. When she opened the door, I was in the living room, not by accident, sitting calmly in the same seat I always took when we watched movies together. Except there was no movie playing, just quiet. Her keys jingled nervously in her hand before she set them down, like she was coming back from some routine business trip. She looked at me cautiously, searching for something, a crack in my face, a softness in my posture. But I had nothing left to give her. "Hey," she said gently, almost whispering. "I wasn't sure if you'd be here." I nodded once. "I figured we should talk in person." She gave a small, shaky laugh and stepped further inside. "Yeah, I hoped we could. I've been thinking," she began, "a lot about what I did, about what we had, and I know I messed up. I know I broke something, but I want to fix it. I still want this, us." I listened, not because I believed her, but because I wanted to remember how it sounded, a person trying to resuscitate a love they'd already buried. When she finished, I stood up, calm, measured, no rage, no heat, just the truth. "I'm not angry anymore," I said, "not even hurt. That part already passed." I picked up a white envelope from the coffee table and handed it to her. She looked at it like it might burn her fingers. Inside, divorce papers, already prepared, clean, direct. "I spoke with a lawyer last week," I said. "Nothing dramatic, no accusations. We didn't have kids. We'll split the house if you want to fight for it, but I'd rather not drag this out." Her hands trembled slightly as she took the envelope. "I made mistakes," she said, voice cracking. "But I love you, I looked her in the eyes, really looked, and for the first time, felt nothing. "I believe you," I said, "but it doesn't change what you did when it mattered." A long silence settled between us. She looked down, clutching the envelope like it might collapse in her hands. "I'll stay at my sister's," she mumbled. I nodded once. "Take whatever you need." She turned toward the hallway, dragging the suitcase behind her. No door slammed, no dramatic exit, just the quiet steps of someone walking out of their own story. When the door finally closed, I let out a slow breath. Not relief, not sadness, just finality. It was over. For good.